Hello and welcome to this production. My name is Daniel Ranville, and I am a person of historic Métis descent with proof of membership. I am a traditional storyteller. This production is meant to share some stories with viewers and subscribers like you who I hope will be satisfactorily entertained. Enjoy my reading, and if so, please share it with others. My sincere hope is that young people will take an interest in these stories. Young people are very intelligent, often underestimated, poorly treated, and yet they are resilient, powerful, worthy of our admiration, love, and deepest respect. There was a time when youth were our ambassadors, dignitaries and diplomats, lawmakers, senators, judges, and their keen wit, insight was held in highest regard by the community, having credibility. Something changed all of that, and it appears that youth are now undervalued, and we force them to prove their self worth to the elderly, a gross use of power. It is my hope that youth would take the time to consider my writings and presentation, to scrutinize it, applying their infinite potential and eternal wisdom. I value their criticism the most, and this includes all youth, no matter where they come from or who they are. See if there's anything of value here. All of my stories are works of fiction based in real life experiences. Names, characters, businesses, places, events, locales, and incidents are either the products of my imagination or used in a fictitious manner. Any resemblance to actual persons, living or dead, or actual events is purely coincidental. Let's begin. This is an introduction to the concept of power, as told by me, written for you in story format, an artistic expression of rebellion. Power is something we experience every day as we wake up to an alarm and prepare to go back to work. And when at work, power is expressed all around, often reinforcing what we already know about it, normalizing it. It's so normal to us, we often cannot see it expressing itself through our very own personal lived experiences. There are origin stories, creation stories, including God, gods, or a force. Do you believe that birds are the descendants of dinosaurs? What is the knowledge of good and evil, morality and ethics in relation to power expressions? How was power expressed before civilization and progress? Consider that a pyramid has one piece seated upon the apex, held above all others by others. Binary codes are a set of switches for on and off. They are command codes that activate or deactivate energy. There is light or the absence of light. What is Trojan software and what is its purpose? Narrative means story, as in storytelling, and in storytelling is a teaching tool used by our ancestors long before modern humans arrived. Or do you believe God created everything? A creation story. The story we tell our children originate from a code, and a code is what we use to program computers. Ultimately, all codes have an origin in creation. Codes rely on simple math, 0 or 1. You either are or you are not. Define social engineering. This is the beginning of our story. In the beginning there was no light, and the spark of life arrived, followed by gravity, space, and time, all of it held together by the unseeable. Power thrives throughout the known universe. Upon awakening one summer morning so that I could see for myself what kind of day it was, I walked to our front door to look out the window. A little bird capered from the crisp, clear blue sky heavens, landing itself on our front steps. In its beak was a grasshopper, and without any perceivable delay, the tiny raptor slammed the insect into the hard concrete step thrice. With calculating precision, the creature's enormous talons gripped the insect, holding it down securely, and with its beak, now a powerful vice grip, ripped the head off, tossing it away as an undesirable. Then, without concern, dismembered a leg, swallowing it whole. I was in shock. It all happened so quickly. I had never seen anything like it. Looking up at me, it flew away, leaving in its wake death and destruction. A moment later, it came back, for unfinished business, consuming the remaining carcass, still twitching in the hot morning sun. It was a marvelous display of power, absent any ethic or moral value. It simply was what it was. Humored, I walked to our closet for a broom to sweep away the undesirables with a flick. I guess I'm having chicken dinner. In the beginning, the two-legged were born innocent, having a reasonable sense of truth and fairness. Child-centered communities encouraged, loved, supported child development for the sake of the children for 7 generations through storytelling. Stories maintained child development in traditions, ceremonies, and beliefs. Life was blissfully in a state of free fall. What went up never came down, and in this way, all things were elevated. This was a time when power expressed itself in humility, respect, truth, courage, love, wisdom, honor, engendering balance and harmony peacefully in life and death among all our relations, the two-legged, the four-legged, those that fly, those that swim, those that crawl, the tree nations, the rock nations, and the star nations. Power dynamics expressing itself in complex, multivariable algorithmic equations in life and reality equated to a common factor producing a near perfect balance on any spreadsheet. For millennia, life was uninterrupted by a centralized power. People were free to come and go without interference as there was no authority or power to stop them. The only law was natural law. Natural law presented itself in all life, seasons. It was sacred and everlasting. At the dawn of civilization, a powerful storyteller spoke of the forbidden as forgiven. And in the gravity of the situation, all stories were trapped in the event horizon of the one, found no escape. A new story about nothing and something, zeros and ones, on, off. Power was unity by a factor of 1, indivisible. A ridiculous story rejected outright by the ones whose power was balanced with humility. The trickster spoke to the young, the poor, the old and infirm, telling them they were nothing without something, until one of them broke down, confessed of being and nothingness, and a new tribe was formed. With social engineerings, the followers of binarism tricked the children of the earth into accepting the Trojan, a powerful exploit code corrupting entire systems with backdoor control by the one. The followers of binarism, irrespective of their own infection, coders, lawmakers, codified in law, regulated hierarchical and lateral dualities in religion, belief systems, traditions, values, and politics. Without the benefit of the old stories, traditional anti-malware protection, codes were infected with biases, perverse speech, arrogance, and corruption. The belief is that one is never enough if more can be acquired. Binary codification is singularity, unity. Anything less is incomprehensible. Indivisible does not compute. This is the foundation of Western civilization's belief systems, perceptions, comprehensions of power which provide false certainty. Binarism simplifies factors to 0 or 1. When two different expressions present themselves to each other, using the principle of cancellation, the final equation expresses between 0 and 1. If everyone can agree, God cancels out goddess. Pride cancels humility. With gross distortions in perception, binary power, being a hierarchical power structure, simplifies power into singularity, canceling harmonic power expressions with imperfect math, assimilating coercively. The power of the one is a cancel culture. The question is, how do we know Z equals Z? You do the math. If I identify as Z, am I really Z? I identify as Z, and if no other factor presents itself, there is no remainder. The equation remains as identified. There is no canceling of Z. Z remains a whole number. The perception of Z may be contested by another observer, and that requires rigorous scientific method, peer-reviewed, empirical research with reproducible conclusions about Z. This process takes a few years to a few hundred years because of errors. Some scientists and elders, storytellers, have biases, prejudices, stereotypes that flaw the math when the conclusion does not fit their constructions of reality, even though science is supposed to be objective rather than subjective. But that's where peer review comes in. Peers, or youth, those sacred clowns, the most powerful in the circle of power, make sure the math is sound, objective, and logical. In time, conclusions among the scientific community produce a harmonic expression about the identity of Z. Having reviewed the scientific literature objectively by our peers, those sacred contraries, the most powerful in the circle of power, concludes my identity is sound, objective, and logical, without biases, prejudices, or stereotypes. And that concludes the first episode of our story on power. There are 6 episodes on power for your review and entertainment. And now for our bullet points for your time and consideration. The story about the bird suggests that birds are the descendants of dinosaurs, as if it is a truth. But it's not. It's a theory that evolved into an accepted truth. How does humility counteract power? What is cancel culture? Who decides who is something and who is not?